Thank you for inviting me to speak here about this. Last year I came to the conference and found it really fascinating, and I think a lot of what I'm going to say today has come out of my attendance at last year's HiAP and also Healthy Cities, World Health Organization in Belfast and other similar conferences, trying to get some joined up thinking around some of these issues. So I am a landscape architect. I have no medical or health background, so I'm not the kind of expert that was referred to in the morning, so apologies for that. And I don't want to say that I in any way underestimate the complexity of all the challenges. Been some amazing diagrams showing them before of trying to reduce the health inequalities in the UK. This is a presentation from the perspective of a landscape architect, urban design, landscape design, of how what I've called intelligent landscape design. I had said can, and then I thought I should be a bit more modest and say could help to reduce health inequality. Apologies if it sounds like an oversimplification, but I think you'll see how it links into all the things that have been said so far today. I've called it My Quarter Mile, because it's all about the local. Just to quickly tell you a little bit about LUC, it's a multidisciplinary company based in London, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Bristol, Manchester. We're quite small, we've been going 50 years. We are planners, landscape planners, ecologists, landscape architects, urban designers, and it's all about that joined up thinking, and it's about the joined up thinking between everything that everyone does in the room and breaking through those silos, and that's what will make this sort of thing work. So it's clear, how do I do this, that we know what healthy places look like. That's Richmond Park, the Tamsin Trail. We know how to create attractive and healthy urban spaces. That's Oxford Brookes University's new campus. We know how to create awesome, challenging playgrounds. That's Tumbling Bay and Stratford. And we know all about the role of landscape in healing hospitals, people in hospitals, and the calming impact on staff and visitors. That's the Southwest Acute Hospital in Northern Ireland. Now, those are all 4 LUC design projects that we're immensely proud of, but they're all public and free to go to. That's an NHS hospital, not a private hospital. But they all have something in common, which is that they're all destinations. They're not on your doorstep. One of the things that, so we know this, I'm going to go through that one quickly. I always like to put that slide up. One of the things that we know, this evidence base on the importance of green space and quality green space, what that can have on the positive impacts that can have on our health and well-being. Huge amounts of great evidence coming in. So that's sort of almost, we can put that aside now. We've got the evidence. But if you look at some of those where it says the most affluent 20% of wards have 5 times more green space than the most deprived 10%, and that starts to get into the questions of health inequality. This is this quote here is sort of the key, I think, to what I'm trying to say, which is it might be that if we do some pretty low-cost interventions in the right places with some intelligent joined-up thinking between departments and providers and with some quality landscape design, we might be able to reduce some health inequalities quite sort of at source in a very profound and quite quick way. And I'm going to show 2 examples of projects that we've done or that are ongoing that deal with the local challenge. So going back to those 4 examples, which are all destination ones, the reason I've called this My Quarter Mile is because we know that the neighbourhoods that have the worst statistics in terms of deprivation often also have a lot of the worst statistics for mental health illness issues and general health issues. What happens when you're ill or depressed, or you have young children, or you're very old, or you're caring for someone who's very old? You can't go very far. Your world shrinks. You can't get to Richmond Park. You can't get to those wonderful places. They're easy projects to do because they're a big capital budget. You can it can be all top down. This stuff's much more difficult to do, but is, I think, a huge opportunity if we can tap into it. So this project in North Glasgow is where some disused green space was activated to connect between these neighbourhoods. So you can see those neighbourhoods of North Glasgow. There's a backwater of a canal which was completely neglected, and the bit that hasn't got houses on it is a disused clay pit next to the water, and very steep slope. You can see some of the bad statistics that most of the residents living near there have. And then just south of that area, you get Glasgow's West End and then the city centre. So you've got all the sort of cultural, the universities, the cathedral, all that stuff is all on the other side of the river, and the river has no bridges across it. And those neighbourhoods are not connected. So that's what the neighbourhoods look like. This row of houses on the right can't get into that green space. There's a fence all the way through. They can't get to what's on the other side, which is the rest of Glasgow. Same goes for the people living in those high-rises. That is the bend on the canal. That is the beginning of what is now our fabulous nature reserve, the disused clay pits area. That sort of sunken part on the left there is where they used to dredge the clay out to build up the canals. That's the history of the area. So how can we get these people to connect to the rest of Glasgow, and how can we get them into this space, knowing as we do that green space and contact with nature is massively beneficial to your health and well-being, and knowing that specific quote that there's evidence to suggest that regardless of where you are on all of these multiple deprivation indices, this having access, easy access in your own quarter mile, as I'm saying here, to quality green space will help, right? That's sort of what this is based on, that idea. So these are the houses at the top of the hill. You can see those high rises again there, and you can see that there's very few cars around. They don't have very good public transport up there. They haven't got enough money for cars generally, and the infrastructure of the streets is looking pretty rough. So what happened in that neighbourhood was that it started, and this is critical, with the local activists, local residents, who realised that they had this resource that should be being better used. They did a placemaking workshop, and that then evolved into a 3-day charrette where LUC was hired, and huge numbers of different organisations and people got involved. It's very much a joined-up project, this, between lots and lots of different partners. And out of this came this joined-up thing where you can see those lines coming across. So we've now built bridges across it for pedestrians. We've built paths through the space. And it's, although this is a bit of a bigger scale, my point really is that there's bits of disused land and neglected bits of green space and rundown bits of green space in neighbourhoods where people don't feel safe all over the UK. And if you work together, and critically if you work with the people who live there and get their input and co-design it with them, something as simple as putting in entrances and paths and lighting to connect fragmented neighbourhoods, to give access into green space in a way that says this is a welcoming place, not a dangerous place. It doesn't have to be hugely expensive. There was a great triumph with this one because this became the development framework, and I've been told that one of the main reasons it got it's now a material consideration on anything happening in here for Glasgow City Council is because of the number of people and different organisations and community groups that were involved in that 3-day charrette. They knew that it was real. It's real, it's local. So, we're a professional organisation, we do this kind of thing. We make plans that then people can implement. But the very first bit, so on the left there, that picture is the entrance at the top of this hill, and that's where that kind of rundown looking houses and crumbly street edges was. So they've now got a way to get into that space, sit on a bench and look out over the rest of Glasgow. Because it's steep, it's great for the sort of cardiovascular. And it's now registered as a local nature reserve, and there's a very passionate group of local residents it's a catalyst. They are using this space now for teaching kids. They're going to open play spaces in it. The river's starting to be used for kids, for canoeing. There's some images of the lovely nature that's in it. Because it was derelict for so long, it's got this fabulous biodiversity in there that you'd normally have to drive 20 minutes out of Glasgow to get to. Okay, so there's some of the images of how it's now being used. It's oversimplifying it to say that started with a couple of paths and some lights, street lights, but that's the sort of message I'm trying to say, is if we could target the worst neighbourhoods and put in some trees, some benches, and some reasons for people who are trapped in their homes because they're not feeling good to come out and just walk 5 or 10 minutes, just start to explore their local neighbourhood, because they start to think, oh, the council spent some money in my street. I can now walk to the end of that street, sit under that tree that's been planted, and maybe I'll meet someone to talk to. And then, with recuperation and the reversal of social isolation, it's all about baby steps. I'm thinking about what was said earlier about depression and how the antidepressants can take the first step, but then to keep you in a happier state, you need to start connecting with your community. And if we can make it pleasant for people to get out so that they're then getting all the benefits of social contact, being in the outdoor space and so on, then that's definitely a baby step towards that. I've got this slide in because that's Shona there being filmed for one of the awards that this project got. But she is these projects don't happen without many, many Shonas. She is an activist, she's a volunteer, she's barely above poverty line herself. She has put in so many hours. It's not, the credit to these things doesn't come from people like LUC, it comes from those sorts of people who are, giving their lives for this stuff. They're putting in years of work, and all our top-down beautiful designs are all well and good, and they are important and they do have a place. But the bottom-up ones don't really work unless you've got these people connected in. And so someone was saying earlier about how we might need to sort of step down from our positions of power slightly from a health point of view. It's also true as designers. We need to shift if we're going to address these issues effectively from being like, oh, here I am, I'm the designer, here you go, look at this marvellous thing, and everyone's like, what's that got to do with me? We have to give power back. We have to say, you tell us what you need. We're just a little moment in time. These people have lived there before, they're going to live there afterwards, it's got to be theirs. And that is a difficult thing for a design profession to take on board, but critical. And more of the money for each of these projects needs to be put earlier in the process to find the local champions and get them on board and get them involved in get them sort of seed money to get the catalyst for these things. Where's the best place to put these things? Which park? Where are these places that we could activate? Tell us. And then we can come along with tools like TfL's Healthy Streets, Scotland's Place Standard. We know what works. We just need to know where to put it and make sure that the people who live there want us to put it there, and will use it and will be happy with it. Okay, enough on Shona, if I can make her move. There we are. Oh, and I just put this in at the end because this is deep in the undergrowth of this nature reserve. And I stumbled upon this and I thought, how fantastic. It's somebody's made it their backyard. Somebody loves this space. And it's that sort of long-term ownership in evolving it into what they want it to be. Okay, I'm going to talk very, very briefly in my 3 remaining minutes about kids. That's another huge part of what we do at LUC is playgrounds, natural playable landscapes. And again, it's been mentioned already. These slides speak for themselves, which gives me pause for breath. Okay. Apparently, our kids spend less time outdoors than prison inmates at the moment. On average, obviously. We need to, and often when they go to a playground, it looks like that, which is not that different from that. So when we design play spaces, we try and do it from children's experiences, and we create a kind of map of all the different experiences we want them to be able to have from a developmental point of view, especially early years, the different schemas, the different physical and mental challenges they need. And we think about equipment last. These are the things we've sort of boiled it down to that we must have. Contact with nature, especially in urban environments. Quickly to say, earlier when one person from West Sussex, I think, said, what about climate change and can we bring these together? It's critical, as well as the health and well-being benefits you get from bringing nature to urban children. They also, Attenborough said, you can't care about what you don't know. And the whole stewardship of our planet is obviously in the hands of children, and the teenagers are doing really well at the moment with it, but the little ones, if in these poorer neighbourhoods where it's just everything's uncared for and nature is seen as weeds, if there can be something beautiful near where they are that they can experience and start to understand this is nature, this is what nature gives us, then that helps all that stewardship. So just to say, in Hounslow and in Camden, we've been involved in the last 2-3 years with 2 amazing projects about trying to increase children's activity to prevent or reduce childhood obesity. And although the work itself was actually fairly standard, you take 4 rundown playgrounds in very local neighbourhoods, and you do consultation and you make them better. The interesting thing about this was that Hounslow had a very definite, oh, that's me, look, see, I knew it was going to make a noise. Dismiss. Okay, so I'll just sum up because it would be rude just to walk off mid-sentence. Consultation is something that we often see in our business as a sort of inconvenience along the way. We worked unusually hard in these Hounslow playgrounds. We went back 3 times to the communities, and we did a lot of work. I still feel like it's never enough. But what was special, one of the other special things about this one was, you can see in that corner there, how can play help? The UK Chief Medical Officer's Guidelines. So this was partly an education project, and this was a deliberate thing by Hounslow. We want families to know, coming into this consultation, we want them to know what this can give their children. So that was part of the consultation, was giving out healthy snacks, telling them, playing games with the kids, and transferring some of this knowledge and information and trying to have a bit of a culture shift. And there we go. Thank you very much.